there. We are live here on Facebook at UNA America. Thank you for joining us. So now, what are we talking about? If you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. So we want to put out the facts that we have gained. Some of those questions that a lot of people have had and they haven't been able to get answers, this is where you want to come to get those answers. Now, what are we dealing with? When we're speaking about history, it's important to understand it because this is how you learn to better stand at law. All right, because these laws that we know of, they didn't just start today. They're not new. They've been around for quite some time. When we go into the history and understanding where they came from, and so you can see things that are going on. Also, your history helps you to understand what's going on in this society today, from a political standpoint, from a social standpoint. You get to see some things now. Let me tell you about what we're dealing with today. We're dealing with, in the history seminar, we're dealing with the Sumerian civilization. All right, what happened in the Sumerian civilization? We're dealing with the Anunnaki, who they were, some of the ancient scriptures. We're dealing with the Bible. That's what we're going over today. And that's a fun topic for me. It really is. I'm going to speak on it a little bit here in the open session so that we can recognize why it's important to know your history. Now, before I get into that, let me make sure that you all know what our lineup is for this summer season 2021. All right, let me tell you what we got. We've got on Sundays, we have our history seminar. We got a full load this season, by the way. So we got our history seminar on Sundays from 3 to 5. And we're loading up at the top of the hour in our Zoom room. Now, if you want to be a part of any of these seminars, you can go to unauniversity.com. UNA, U as in up, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, university.com. And you can join those seminars. You can enroll so we can get you into the seminars. Now, Sundays from 3 to 5, we have the history session, history seminar, what you never learned. And we're going to go deep into some things and help you to understand. Now, by the way, our history session deals with history from the standpoint of law. History from the standpoint of law. That's all the way from what happened in your vessel to what's going on in society today. All right. The Monday session that we have is the Back to Basics. Back to Basics. This is dealing with trust and putting your all capital letters straw man as we know it under trust. All right. That's on Mondays from 7 to 9. Also, we have the financial instruments seminar on Wednesdays. That's financial instruments. That's a higher level course. If you don't have the basics, you're not going to be able to get in that seminar. But if you have the basics, if you are under trust, you're headed towards being under trust, then you can get into that seminar. It's important to have those basics because that's this upper level. That's when we're going into actually walking like banks. That's again on Wednesdays from 7 to 9. 7 to 9. And if you want to enroll in any of these seminars, you go to unauniversity.com and you'll scroll down and you'll see all of the seminars there. So I want to welcome everybody today. Welcome everybody in YouTube land. Welcome everybody in Facebook land. Thank you all for joining us. All right, so now let's get on this, what we're talking about today with respect to the history, What You Never Learned seminar, which we're loading up at the top of the hour. Invite all of y'all to be part of that now. And by the way, once you get into the seminars, we do have the videos for you to review. If you weren't here on some of the sessions, you'll be able to review all of those and stay up to breast on what is going on in the classes. All right, so now in today's seminar, okay, what we're dealing with the Sumerian civilization and how that is the oldest known and oldest documented civilization. That's where the first writing came into play. Now, when we're looking at the Sumerian civilization, y'all look it up. Mesopotamia is what you'll hear. Take some time to go and look it up. In Mesopotamia is where civilization supposedly started. The Tigris and the Nile River, you'll hear a lot about that and who these people were. Now, they clearly detail in their civilization and in their writings that there was another entity here that they called the gods, that they say created them and helped them to form their society. They paid these gods uh, to do work for them, all right, in what we know as temples, all right. So now we're going to get into that today. The Anunnaki, we're going to talk about who they were, where they came from, what they were here for, what they created when they got here, how we can tell. Now, a lot of us know, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all some great books to read if you're wanting to know history. Number one, The Lost Book of Enki. Now, you'll hear people saying, oh, this is, they'll say this is satire, or that it is not true for whatever. Zachariah Stitchin is the one, he's one of the people who translated the Sumerian text. All right, go get it, because there's so many things in there questions will be answered about some of the stories that you hear, especially when you're talking about Noah's Ark, when you're talking about the rib story with Adam and Eve. Go and read these books, Book of Enki, the Bible, and the Book of Jasher. That's one of the left out books. That's one of my favorite books, the Book of Jasher. Go and get those books. Those will help you with understanding what's going on. Now, let's recognize this now. There are a lot of left out books in the Bible. Read those left out books. Study where the Bible came from, where the scriptures came from. That's important. All right. It's not about just believing in anything. It's about understanding what happened. Now, I said this earlier. You'll hear people say that the Book of Enki is mythical or mythological, or that the Bible is just a whole bunch of allegories. Let's understand this now. Don't equate myths, mythological, and allegory with an untruth. Don't equate that. They're not the same. A myth is basically something where somebody is saying, oh, well, we just haven't proven it. We can't prove, well, you can't prove it, but they haven't proven it. An allegory is a story or poem, according to your standard dictionary, or a picture that can be interpreted to reveal hidden meaning, typically a moral or a political meaning. Listen, your whole vessel is an allegory. Your life is an allegory, because your flesh, your eye color, your hair texture, your height, all of that tells a story of what happened in another time, because everything is just energy. Your whole vessel is an allegory, and your whole life is an allegory. It tells a story. Everything you do and everything you see in your dimension is telling a story. So don't look at something where, oh, it's allegory. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. Oh, it's a myth. It's an allegory. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. And what you want to do is move past those terms, myth or allegory, and read these texts to find what the truth is, what the facts are. Because you got to understand, even a lie is based off the truth. Even a lie is based off truth. So as we get into these ancient scriptures and these, these stories, we got to understand, there's going to be maybe some added additions to them, because the Bible, if anybody tells you the Bible is a perfect word of God, they clueless. It can't be the perfect word of God if it's got things missing. But it is a very powerful book. So don't think I'm sitting here saying, oh, it's not true or whatever. I'm telling you that all things, they got flaws in them. But when you know and you study in different disciplines, then you can spot the truth. You can spot the facts. They become very clear to you. So the Bible is a very, very powerful book, but it can't be perfect, because the book itself is telling you that they're left out books. If it's perfect, it can't have nothing left out. So we've got to recognize what it is that we're looking at and how to use it to our advantage. Now, let me get into this, because I talk about the Bible or the Book of Enki. One of the things about the Book of Enki is that it gives us a great insight on a lot of what we're seeing in today's society. There is an infighting. There is an infighting. And when you read this book, it's going to help you, give you a clear understanding of what's going on. I talk about the Bible a lot. So let me say this before I move on from the Book of Enki. One of the things about the Book of Enki is that it sheds light on, again, a lot of things that are happening in the society today with respect to all of these territorial wars, with respect to these political wars, with respect to understanding the difference between federal and state. There are different fractions that are fighting, and it's still going on. A lot of people will say, "Oh, the Anunnaki went away." They didn't go away. And see, when this is why I also go into universal laws. When you understand this, once something puts its DNA in you, it is forever connected to you forever. And so they can't go away. They're here in different forms. And so when you start to understand what went on in that time, and you can connect it, because even when you look at what's going on in that book, you can see that it's backed by science, it's backed by history, it's backed by archaeology, and it's backed by spiritual laws. You can see it. So now let me go on from that, because the other thing that we need to recognize is, let's get into this Bible. Now, the Book of Enki explains some of the stories that you see in the Bible. This is why I talked about the rib story. Goes into that. It goes into Noah's story and what happened with him. And then when you're reading these different left out books, it helps you to understand even deeper what's really going on. So those three books, again, I said the Book of Enki, the Bible, and the Book of Jasher. The Book of Jasher, Jasher, is a great book because it is what I would consider a less tampered with version of the Bible. So when you look at these three books, the Book of Enki is like the telling of history from the standpoint of the gods. Like it was some, like there's a god, an actual quote unquote god that actually helped to write this book. The Book of Jasher is a telling of from the standpoint of someone who might have been in contact with these quote unquote gods. And then the book of the Bible rather is a standpoint from somebody who really didn't know who the gods were, and they just heard things. They maybe saw some things. I'm gonna tell you why. When you read the Bible, it makes these quote unquote God entities seem as though they were spiritual beings. Whereas the book of Jasher, Jasher meaning upright, that's not somebody's name. Jasher means to stand upright or righteousness. That's what Jasher means. So the book of Jasher makes it clear that these quote unquote gods actually walked the planet. They actually had personalities. They ate, that people actually came in contact with these quote unquote gods, and they had names. It made it clear that there was more than one of them. Whereas the Bible has taken many different gods and combined them together, which is why people will read the Bible, or they speak about the Bible as though this quote unquote God of the Bible was schizophrenic. Well, that's because somebody has made them all one, and that's not what the case was. You can see that when you read the book of Jasher, which is one of the left out books, is what I consider a less tampered with version of the Bible, especially the Old Testament. The book of Jasher is a good book to use when you want to set out a timeline. That's a great book to use if you want to have a timeline of what happened in that time and what the time frame was. The book of Jasher is a good book for that. If you and it's also, it doesn't have the story split up. It goes into more detail on what happened, especially when you're talking about things like Sodom and Gomorrah. That's a really good book to read. And then the Bible is a good book to read, because you're going, listen, let me go into this then. When you're talking about the Bible, again, we're dealing with history from the perspective of law and understanding law. Every law that you know of today is derived from the laws of the Bible. Every law, and I mean every law that you know of today, is derived from the laws of the Bible. This is why it's important to understand the Bible. As much as, yes, we know it has been changed and tampered with and restructured and redacted and everything else, you have to still understand how to wield the tool and the instrument. Because if it can be used to hold you down, then it can be used to lift you up. When you have knowledge of it, when you're ignorant of it, then it's going to continue to bring you harm because you're ignorant. But when you gain knowledge of it and understanding, when you just simply read the book yourself. See, listen, a lot of us, and I was there in this place where, I know religion is BS and I got it. But what I had to do was move past that frustration and anger that I had been lied to. And then I had to get into actually read the book myself, because there were people who were telling me things about the book and they were not giving me the full truth. And to be honest with you, they can't give it to you. You have to see it for yourself. If you don't do nothing, but I'm not talking about when you was in the church. All of us went to church. All of us, most of us grew up in the church. All right. Didn't know nothing about that book that we call the Bible. You still don't know. And so you have to read it yourself and stop believing people who are telling you these things. Oh, the Bible was written by the white man. That ain't had nothing to do with us. You got to take time to read the book. Because when you do, then you're going to recognize how ignorant. Listen, this is what I found. Less than 95% of the population has read the Bible. This is the number one book sold worldwide across this planet. And less than 95% of the population have actually read the book. Read the book. Read it. Not from the standpoint of a religious standpoint, but read it to see what it says. Read the book of Jasher. I had to do that. I was at that point. I was like, I won't be reading no. No. I had to read it for myself. And then once I read it, a whole lot of questions were answered for me. So, as I say, just went from a standpoint of getting some questions answered. Read the book for yourself. Again, if you read it when you was in Bible study, back when you was something teen or toddler, whatever, look, read it again now. Read it now. And watch some questions get answered for you. Now, the other thing is, I spoke about how the Bible holds laws, or every law that you know of today. Those laws are derived from the Bible. That's important, because you got to understand and remember, when you're talking about a court of law, you go in a court of law. This is the place where these people will take your freedom away from you. And you don't even understand what your power is when you go into these places. You don't even, we got to start understanding the spiritual side of what's going on when we go into a court. You go into a court, they tell you, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Y'all got to understand, even when you walk into a quote unquote courtroom, there's a spiritual a spiritual deal going on. When they say all rise, yeah, that's a seance. Y'all don't understand the spiritual side behind what's going on. That's why we have to understand history. That's why we got to dive into what's going on with religion and the Bible and what religion really is. What we've been taught about religion, yeah, there's a lot of lies behind it, and it's been used to keep us ignorant. But again, that same thing that's been used against you will be used to your advantage when you have knowledge. All right. So you're in the courtroom and they're talking about all rise. Well, they're talking about all your dead spirits rise. Because that's the only thing a court can deal with is dead entities and dead spirits. And you stand up. They're telling you to swear on the Bible. Used to be a Bible. I encourage you to get your own Bible and take it into court if you're going. So help you God. Well, who is this God? Who are these gods? You got to recognize what's going on when they're having these seances or these court sessions and where your powers are. Your powers are in this Bible. They were given by this God. And it's important to recognize how powerful this is, especially if you're talking about walking in this society and playing this game. All right. So then now we start to recognize, okay, the Bible, okay, yes, we know it's not the perfect word of God, but how can I use it to my advantage? What is it? Where did it come from? That's what these history sessions are about. How does it play a role in this society today? And how can I use it to better myself? I need y'all to understand something because there are some trigger words that we have, trigger words. You hear the words religion or God. Some of us go off into a whole, oh, no, honey, y'all better pay attention. When we're talking about, for example, a religious organization, that's one of the most powerful organizations that you can invent or create for yourself. If you're wanting to have the most amount of security and how do you say it? Trust with respect to being outside of the state, you want it religious, private, trust. That's what you want. A private religious trust. And you can call it nonprofit, throw nonprofit on it, that's fine. But you want it to be outside of the state. Now, you got to understand, when we start talking about religious organization, once you say you're religious, the state doesn't have any business with you. You got to understand that religion is not about Christianity or Buddhism or Islam or Judaism. It's about whatever your personal God is. Or what, even if you don't have a God, even if you have something, and again, for those of y'all who feel like, nah, when you die, you dead, and okay, it's not even about necessarily what you believe in, but if you're trying to do business with these people, you better respect what they believe in. And they fully believe there's a God. They fully believe there's another spiritual entity or higher being. If you don't have that understanding, then you're not going to be able to play ball because you're not on the same level. You don't understand the rules of the game. My suggestion is not what to tell you what to believe in, but to help you to understand what the rules of the game is and what the beliefs of the people who are playing this game are. When you know that, then you can move forward and do business. That's what the point of this history seminar is. We need to understand where these laws came from, how they came to be, where we came to be, because your whole vessel is a set of laws. Where did it come from? We're diving into the law. And the only way you can really understand how to walk on this law is to understand the history. You are a set of laws. when you understand how powerful you are as a being and how powerful you are as a set of laws and where that came from and how to change your own laws. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, we talk about this, your DNA. Change the laws within you. The laws is your DNA. Changing it. You understand how to change that, then these laws out here in the third dimension will be easier for you. All right. So those books again, Book of Enki, the Bible, book of Jasher, and any of the left out books. Read those books. Study where the Bible came from. Don't just. I get people who just read the Bible. They're like, oh shit. And on the third day, God said, "Hey, do you understand what that means? Where it came from? Why it came to be?" Once you're studying outside of the book, then you start to recognize what's in the book and what the facts are that are within the book and what was added and changed. You'll be able to see it. All right. So get those books, get the left out books, study more outside of the book, and learn how to use it in today's society. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Madison says every earthly law has been based from the Bible. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madison. Yes, Sunshine, your DNA. Zachary, thank you for joining us. We're about to load up in the Zoom room. I want to thank everybody for being here and joining me today. If you all want to be a part of the UNA University, go to unauniversity.com and enroll so we can get you into the sessions so you can learn the history, all right, and be able to use all of these items that are within this society to your advantage instead of allowing them to hold you down, all right? Want to make sure you all join us on Facebook at UNA America, join us on YouTube at UNA Republic. And we're going to see y'all. We love you. I appreciate you. See y'all in the session. We are loading up at the top of the hour. Diva, I'm out. Bye-bye.